Jim, they just released a new game. It's called Octopath Traveler.
What? That sounds like Octodad.
Yeah, but you're an octopus, and you travel a fantasy realm being an octopus.
Are you sure this is not Octopath Traveler?
Oh, Octopath Traveler. That makes more sense.
You should know better, especially since you were the one that played the game earlier.
Oof.
But this is Octopath Traveler, and pretty much the premise of the game is there are 8 different characters. They each have their own starting point and story.
And you get to pick who joins your party.
The graphics, if you've been playing, again, games for a long time, and this is the week of Fish and Spies, and I guess
Merchants.
fancy RPGs and merchants.
Because we played a merchant for our...
the graphics kind of look like Breath of Fire 4, but like with shaded graphics, like 2D graphics.
It's definitely a throwback
It's a mesh between 2D and 3D.
It's a very good throwback to like the 16-bit RPGs, especially since its premise is basically a shout out to one of the mana games that used to be in Japan for like a really long time before it got translated officially. Where you actually had a similar system where you had a starting point character, but then 2 other characters can join your party.
Well, in this, like, I'm not sure exactly how there's overlap, but you get more of the story depending, like, if you actually choose each character separately and play all the way. Now, I don't think they all link up. I'm not sure.
That's what I've heard the big problem
I've heard
was.
the big problem is, like, each person has like a little bit of plot, but not like there isn't like an overarching story.
Or like
it's
even like
you hire people at the towns that you go to, but like,
or more specifically, you don't actually craft a unique story by combining different character arcs together.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you learn a little bit about this person, but like you don't learn like what you would expect from like.
But from the 30 minutes. From the 30 minutes we played, I can say that this game has definitely dropped us into the game a lot faster than Ni no Kuni 2 or Dragon Quest 11, where those games just try to ease you into the tutorial and try to ease you into like a prologue, whereas this is like, okay, so the prologue is your village is being attacked.
I think the fact that you only have like a little story can kind of like take away from the epicness of, like, the graphics are epic, the sound's epic, like it's orchestrated, like everything is like so well polished, ridiculously polished, that it feels like, oh, the story is not as complicated, I guess.
Yeah, I mean I'm at that stage of like JRPGs where I just assume like every JRPG just begins and ends the same way.
Well,
where it's
and people. Well, I mean that's because you've had the experience, but I think that was the thing. Like I remember reading like there's like 60 hours of gameplay at least, but the problem is like a lot of people are like, I don't feel like finishing the story because it's, it's just like a small, sort of like a sampler of story. Like instead of like an overarching explanation, like, oh, this character meets this character and they all have their own motivations. Yeah, they have their own motivations, but like it's not on the same scale, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
and plus this game is like $85 on Steam, and I have no idea why it's so expensive. Like I got it on sale for like $40.
It is a quality game, but unfortunately that's where it's
quality cost.
So it's kind of you kind of have a mixed bag here. From the 30 minutes we've played, I definitely love the gameplay style, especially the fighting, since over time your character has like the boost ability where they can just boost up their attacks for even
it's
better
kind of like
damage.
it plays kind of like Final Fantasy, but like with a few twists, like job
systems.
Points.
Well,
exactly.
to be fair, it's more like each of the 8 characters has like their own unique class.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you level up and gain job points,
you learn something related.
And you actually spend those job points on a certain action.
Yeah.
So for our merchant, she had like a couple of choices of what to buy, and I picked Rest, which is basically a free heal for her.
Yeah, exactly. Which is useful because you're not using your herbs all the time.
Yeah, and I'm not wasting grapes, which heal like 500 health points.
Yeah.
When I'm like only
Less
at
than
200.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my main criticism. Like the price of this game, like if it was just $20 or $30, maybe 40, like I'd be like, yeah, go and try this. It's not something you'll see very often.
But especially with the
85
premise
is
it tries, yeah, I mean, I feel like if the game was polished a little more with the premise, like the game itself is pretty good, but they definitely need to polish and sell what the premise was, like make it more pronounced, like all these characters have a different story and each of them link up in a different way if you join up with different
Well,
people.
that'd be cool. That'd be cool if they had it so like, oh, I met this person at this point, so I'm closer to them. Like Romancing Saga has it like that. I think it was number 2. 3 just got ported to Steam.
Which is good. I mean,
but like
more RPG
how you
love.
meet them and like where you meet them has an effect.
I kind of know what you're talking about, but it's not exactly what I'm thinking.
Oh no, well that's what I'm thinking. Like if they did something like that, that would be unique, and like it just depending on like how close you are. Like Suikoden, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it. Suikoden also does something like that, and they do it over multiple games. And I've never seen like any other game quite. Like game series do it where like how you played the previous game.
The best idea I can think of for those who don't even know what we're talking about. Imagine if you're playing an RPG where you play the main character and you actually choose which main character you want to play as.
Yeah.
You pick that main character, and then like later on you get to pick another main character and their story links up with that other character. That's what we're trying to...
Well, it sort of influences each other, and like I don't think that's really being done to like its fullest extent.
But then again, we've only played like 30 minutes, so we don't have 100 hours to sync our... And I know you said like 60 hours, but like I'm giving it 100 hours just so for like various experimentations, retries, like...
Yeah. But anyways, I'd say like if you can get it for 40, go for it. You'll probably love it.
Even less is better.
Yeah, I think 85. I don't know where that came from because
I'd recommend you buy it for the Switch so that way you can play it on the go.
Yeah, unless you have like a mini, like a tablet that you could play it on.
Which also works, but for all right. But if you don't, then and if you have a Switch, then
you could switch. Yeah, exactly.
I give this game. Let's see. I do like the quality of it.
I'd say like without playing the game more, I'd say like 8.5.
Yeah, it's funny.
I wouldn't give it a 9 or 10, but
it's funny because octo in Greek means 8. So Octopath Traveler, which has 8 characters, gets 8 characters out of 10.
Yeah. But the actual name does not.
Now let's go on an Octopath of our own.
All right, we gotta do it. It's getting late.
Keep on pathing.
Past date.
Keep on pathfinding, Pathfinders.